this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 manifestation signs that you should never ignore. I'm going to share with you ways of using them in a powerful way, doing the right things at the right time so that you are guaranteed to get their manifestation you want to experience. Welcome back to another video. My name's Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you those 3 manifestation signs you should never ignore, and they're also things that maybe a lot of people don't think about in the form of how the manifestation process works. Now when it comes to us creating what we want, a lot of it has to do with our focus, has to do with our intention, has to do with our momentum, which comes from our focus. And when we start to put enough energy into a certain direction, we're going to start to get signs of that manifesting in our life. But what happens is sometimes people misinterpret those signs, and what they do is they then give up. They either withdraw their energy or they focus on something else and they start to let that momentum die. So for the manifestation process in general, something that's important to understand is that the most important thing is the energy state of being that you remain in throughout the whole process. Because if you start to feel an elevated emotion, if you're doing what you're passionate about and you're feeling good, but then you stop and you switch how you feel, then what you do is you're kind of in a way saying that I don't believe this can happen and I don't believe it will happen. So instead, what you want to do is make it a powerful, in a way, a commitment that you are going to remain in the preferred energy state regardless of the outer circumstances, because the outer circumstances are a reflection of the inside. So when you start to have this kind of understanding, it changes the whole process, because then it's less about how can I do this, and this to make the outer world look a certain way, and it's more so about how can I feel the way I prefer regardless of the outer circumstances. And how when I do that, then paradoxically enough, that is when everything begins to change. So what is the first sign that you should never ignore when it comes to manifestation? It's little tests that you may get, where the universe in a way will give you a small little test to say if you're really committed to it. So the idea is that if your goal of what you want to experience is over here, and there's a little bit of a wall right here, and maybe it's just a little wall that you have to kind of step over, it's not a real tall wall, what you do is when you get to that, if you just immediately give up and you drop your state of being, you're feeling passionate, you get up to this wall, and then you say, oh, this means that it's not meant to happen. There's a little bit of resistance right here. And you turn around or you just drop your state of being, guess what? You don't actually make it over the wall. You don't actually make it to what you want to experience in your life. So sometimes what may happen, and a sign that you're on the right path, is if there's little bumps in the road, and you can then in that moment decide whether you're going to move over it or you're going to completely turn away from it. But you have to do something that I say this in a lot of my videos, hold the frame. You have to trust the process and hold the frame. This is something I had to do for a long time when it came to making videos, because I knew that it wasn't going to be the 4th video that I made that was going to pop and then get big on YouTube. What I did is I decided that I was going to make a video a day, and I knew it was going to take time. And it did. It took, there were times, and I had to really prove it to myself, because I was working a full-time job at the time. I was working a sales job. And even though I was working a sales job, I was also making daily videos when I committed to doing daily videos on YouTube. And it was a lot of work, but sometimes these little bumps would happen. Like, for example, I would then go home from work at sometimes midnight, because I live in Las Vegas and I worked a sales commission job at Barney's, New York, selling women's shoes. I'd get home at midnight, and then what happened is at midnight, I'd either be like, do I feel like going to bed right now? Well, of course, I probably felt like going to bed. But it was like, but I committed to doing a daily video, every day on YouTube. And before I went to bed at night, I couldn't go to bed without scheduling a video for 10:30 the next morning, because that's when my videos always go out. And it was a little bit of resistance, it was a little bit of a bump, but to me, this is my personal viewpoint, to me it was a little bit of a test to see how bad do you want this? How much do you want the universe to reflect back to you what you want? And when I decided that, you know what, I'm going to prove it to myself and prove it to the universe that this is something I want, guess what? that reflection comes back. Because if you just a little bit commit to something, just a little bit do something, you're not showing, you're not really committed to that larger vision, especially if that larger vision is something that you're really passionate about. Because when I make videos, I feel passionate. Whether it's I'm up till real late at night editing or something. Now, of course, now I don't have to do that because I do YouTube full time. So right now I'm filming this first thing in the morning, and I'll have it all done and ready to go here in about an hour and a half for this video to go up. So I don't have to do that kind of lifestyle. Now I get to do what I want because I put in the work in the beginning. But realize that if something comes up and it gives you a little bit of resistance, there is a choice in that moment of resistance to where you can either say, this is something I can use in a powerful way. I can learn from this. I can use this and keep my state of being going up. Or I can let my state of being go down, because then the state of being is dependent on outer circumstances, and then I can turn away and start to focus on something else. What I encourage you to do is to remain in that high vibe state by giving that situation a positive meaning and knowing you can learn from it. What is the second sign you should never ignore when it comes to your manifestation coming and you being able to perceive of it? It has to do with the feeling inside of you regardless of the outer circumstances. So you may look around and be like, I don't know, I don't see any of this stuff happening. But on the inside, you're starting to feel it. That is a sign that you are not dependent on the outer circumstances to then make the change for you. But that's the paradox, because when you get to that place, and I'll show you how to do it, when you get to that place, guess what? Paradoxically enough, it starts to happen for you, because that's what reality is. Reality is a reflection of what you believe to be true, and reality is a reflection of your internal state of being. So choose to feel the way that you want for the sake of feeling what you want, instead of choosing to feel what you want because of the outer circumstances of things looking a certain way. That's the difference. But what you can start to do is you can start to feel it within by understanding that whatever you want to experience in your life, whatever manifestation it is that you're intending to create, whether it's a relationship, connection with someone else, whether it's money, which is the freedom, those are rooted in an emotion. And that emotion is something you could feel more right now. And when you start to feel that emotion with an intention, so it's elevated emotion and elevated intention. And intention means a focus. It's a focus on an outcome. And what you do is you mix these two together. But how do you do that? How do you get yourself to the feeling space? Well, you can do that right now with me. Put your hands over your heart like this. And as you do that, you start to bring the awareness into your heart more so than just in the head. And as you do this, you start to literally build the electromagnetic energy around your heart. This is something the Heart Math Institute has shown, is that there's an electromagnetic energy that goes far outside of our body. There's a toroidal field that goes outside of our body. And when we put our hands over our heart like this, we start to grow the awareness inside of our heart. Wherever we put our awareness is where we put our energy and where the energy is growing. So put the awareness inside your heart like this and start to feel inside your heart center and focus on the emotions you want to feel. Now also, focus on the emotions you want to feel and things in your life right now where those emotions are there, because there's always some form, some inkling of that emotion that's already there. So for example, if you're like, I want a relationship, feel connected to someone else, or you most likely have some type of relationship in your life, even if it's not romantic. You may have a good relationship with your mom, and it doesn't have to be a romantic one. You could just think, oh, I feel connected to other people. You could focus on that connection you have, and you start to grow that energy inside of your heart. And then what you do is when you get to the peak of feeling that emotion, you then think of the intention you have. You could say, I intend to meet somebody that resonates with me at a deep level. I intend to create more abundance in my life through doing what I love, if it's about money and freedom. I intend to feel more freedom in my life to do what I want when I want to do it. And you start to then intend and you think of that outcome. What does that mean for you? What could that be? Maybe it's doing your passion full time. Maybe it's going to the beach with someone that you love, that you're in a relationship with. Think of that intention and think, I intend. Those are very powerful words, I intend. And it's like an outcome. But you feel that with the emotion. And when you start to feel that in your heart center, guess what? Powerful things begin to happen. So with this whole manifestation process in general, another thing to realize is that as you raise your state of being, as you raise your vibration, you manifest things faster than ever before. And when I elevated my vibrational set point, that's when everything in my life began to change. So what I did is I created a free guided meditation that will show you exactly how to raise your vibrational set point. You can listen to it at night. I recommend you listen to it for 21 days straight, and that if you do that, it can profoundly change your life and raise your vibrational set point so that you create from a much higher paradigm. So that's something you can download at the top of the description box below, and that will help you to make sure that you do create what you want in a very fluid way. Now, the third manifestation sign that you should never ignore has to do with a small opportunity. This could be something so small that you would normally completely overlook it. But for example, it could be something like you want to get a job promotion at your work, and you want to get a promotion. So what happens is you set that intention, you feel the elevated emotion of you just feeling like you're on the top of your game, and you go into work, and maybe your boss gives you a little bit more responsibility than normal. Hey, could you do this instead? I know you don't normally do this. This isn't normally something you do, but could you do this instead? Now, normally you may say, I don't know if I want to do that, or maybe you do it reluctantly, but instead, what I'm encouraging you to do is to become excited about it. Is to give it a positive meaning. To understand that what this is a small stepping stone that is starting to show you that you are in the right direction. Another way you could look at this is if your intention is to create more abundance in your life. And you go out and you literally just find $1 on the floor. You find even a nickel or a quarter on the floor. Start to associate and know that that is a little stepping stone, that is a sign that you are in the right direction. Because what you do is as you give it positive meaning, as you give it positive focus, whatever you focus on grows, and because you're focused on it, you will experience more and more of it. But in a way, you're giving that thing, that sign, a meaning that then gives you permission to feel a certain way. And even though our inner state isn't dependent on it, you start to invoke that pattern of recognition. You will start to experience more of it in your life. You could associate this to a stepping stone of your intention is to meet someone and to be in a relationship. So you meet somebody, you literally just go out for coffee or something, and you just literally smile and someone smiles back at you in line. Now what you can do is just be grateful that that could be a sign, a momentum, that you're in the right direction because the energy is moving. Even though that's just a stepping stone, it's a very small sliver of the whole piece of the whole part of the process, guess what? It's in the right direction. So pay attention to those small stepping stones and give it, when it does happen, give it some type of positive reinforcement, because as you do that, whatever you focus on grows, and as you put more focus on it, guess what? More of that will come back to you. I notice this a lot. Anytime I'm focused on a certain thing, whether that's it's a certain idea that I have for something I can help people with, maybe it's a program I create, and I'll get a sign of that. I'll go out and I'll literally just see a small opportunity or a small sign that shows me this is something you're meant to be doing. This is something that can help a lot of people. Maybe it's something I'm thinking of creating, maybe a program for somebody for some type of problem it's solving, and then a day later a friend reaches out to me and has that same problem. I'm like, oh, that's a sign that I'm in the right direction, that I should pursue that that's something that will manifest abundance for me. So what you can start to do is to be aware of what that is and to let that be some part of the process. Even if it's just a small part of it, that's okay. Let it be something that you really start to embody. So remember that even if you get a small test of something, if you remain in a high vibe state and you choose for it to be some type of positive meaning, you will push through it. You will get over that little wall, that little ledge that may creep up. And that as you start to prove to yourself more that you are worth it, you will start to experience more of that in your life, and that is a manifestation sign you should never ignore. Another one is feeling good regardless of the outer circumstances, and trusting and knowing that paradox, that as you feel good for the sake of feeling good, that everything will begin to change in your life. And that as you go through that, the third sign that you should never ignore is a stepping stone in the right direction. And that if you acknowledge it, you start to create a powerful momentum that will literally ripple out into the rest of your life experience. But you have to start buying into yourself. So what I encourage you to do is to combine these two things together, the elevated emotion with the elevated intention, start to pinpoint it in the direction of what you want, and then be on the lookout for these kind of signs. You'll get them, you'll get reflections of it, and as you get reflections of it, you'll be able to know that you are in the right direction. So another thing I will be doing is I will be doing weekly live Q&As on Instagram. And if you guys want to interact with me in a powerful way, if you want to kind of have more of a dialogue than rather than just the videos in the comment section, which is cool, but I think it's also cool to get to know you guys. If you have questions you want me to answer and you want to ask me, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. I'll go ahead and plug that for you guys below, and you guys can follow me there and we can have that kind of dialogue too. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you guys liked it, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that little notification here so that you guys can see the daily vids that I do. That's the way YouTube does things now, is you actually have to hit that button in order to see the daily vids. And other than that, as always, peace, much love.